if we have a look at this chart provided by Bloomberg, the pound has fallen below $1.19 for the first time since March 2020, the time of the first UK COVID lockdown. Analysts at Nomura are predicting it will fall to $1.10 by the end of the summer, which would be the lowest since 1985. Well, Patrick Reid is co-founder of the Adamis Principle, which is a foreign exchange consultancy based in London. Good morning to you, Patrick. So just to remind our viewers why this is important, why a strong currency is good for an economy.
Well, it attracts business, it attracts flows, and it brings up the power of wealth. It's just a really good thing, but not too much. And what we're seeing in sterling is no one wants it. There is a fundamental lack of belief in the economy. You've got this toxic mix of dire forecasts in economic growth. You've got exploding inflation, which, if you believe the Bank of England, could reach 11%. I think it could be higher. And you've also got a jubilant dollar. And not only that, if that's not enough, you've got mass exodus with 50 plus leaving minister-wise in the government. All of this means three things: lack of trust.
And lack of confidence in what might happen in the days and the weeks ahead for the UK. So I guess it makes sense for people to sell sterling on foreign exchange markets. But, you mentioned the US and how attractive the dollar is at the moment, which is another counter to all of this. It's not just about the UK, it's what the Federal Reserve, the central bank's doing in the US, isn't it, to a great degree as well?
Absolutely. We used to call it carry, which is basically picking up the yield differentials from one currency to the other. And you can see that as sterling getting hammered in New York, Japan and London. If it breaks this 119.50 area, there's a big cliff to drop all the way to the COVID lows back in March in 2020 to 114. That is huge. If that happens, it could be a whole different level of pain. But the difference between the US and the UK is this. The US macro picture is largely pristine. Now, they had negative growth, but there is the jobs are fine. Inflation, obviously, it's a problem for the whole globe. But there's more belief in the US because they basically started interest rate hikes way before the UK. And the fact is, up until now, their macro picture has been pretty good.
And if we look at Europe and the value of the euro in comparison to sterling currently, where are we at from that point of view? Because many of the key economies in Europe have got very similar challenges to ours.
You're absolutely right. Europe has its own issues. Okay, natural gas and fears that Russia's going to turn off and make it a very cold winter this year in Europe really forced euro sterling, which is a great index, much lower. And Europe has its own problems with huge recessionary fears that are very real. So if you have to compare Europe to the UK, it could very well be in a much worse situation just because of energy and the natural gas fiasco that it's currently in.
All right. Patrick Reid, good to talk to you to get your sense of what's ahead for the value of sterling.